Hello, I'm Penny with In Stitches with Penny. Today we're going to talk about tools of the trade. Whatever you do, whether it's cooking, woodworking, whatever hobby or project that you're in, the tools are the most important piece of the whole project. It's really not the end project, well it could be, but getting there from start to finish in an efficient manner using the right tools can make a world of difference. It allows for less frustration. You won't want to throw the project out the window. I have 7 tools outside of your regular sewing machine, pins. You know, we're not going to talk about the basic ones. You know you need pins, you know you need a sewing machine. These are 7 items that I think are critical. I use these every time I sew a project. My number 1 item on the list is a good pair of scissors. Not just one pair, but you want several pair because they each have their own function. Be sure to get a dedicated pair for fabric only. If you use these scissors on anything else, it's gonna dull the blade and you're not gonna be happy. And I'll just kind of give you a little demonstration. Here's a little piece of fabric and notice how it cuts all the way to the end with ease. I have no issues with a dull blade. These are my paper scissors. Buy them at the dollar store, you know. They're just for paper anyway. And if you'll notice, I get to a point and it just won't cut, you know, and then you're just like chopping at it. So you don't want that. So it's really only sharp like from here down. These paper, you know, anything that's not fabric, because you're gonna see why. And now look at my fabric scissors. It just cut through there, you know, with ease. Buy a good pair, look for a good brand. Brands that I think are good are Fiskars, tried and true, pretty affordable. Gingers, Kai, those are 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. So be sure to get a dedicated, you'll notice mine has a blue handle, that way I can look at an instant and know those are my fabric scissors. And I don't mix them. And then these are my paper scissors when you're cutting out patterns, you're making patterns, you're just, you know, just leave these for paper and get them at the dollar store. You know, you have $1 invested. Another pair of scissors I think you should invest in is these little sewing scissors for threads, you know, and they need to be sharp. So, you know, all the way to the end. And you want, if you're doing a buttonhole and you need to get all the way into the corner, you want to be sure that it's sharp all the way into the corner, just like that. So these are nice for when, you know, you're sewing, maybe your sewing machine doesn't have an automatic cutter. Mine does, but it still leaves an inch worth of threads. So I want to snip off the rest of them. So I keep these near my sewing machine. So you're gonna have, this is what I recommend, 3 pair fabric, paper, and just little thread scissors, little sewing snip scissors. Another thing I like is these rotary cutters. I bought this one years and years and years ago. And I wasn't sure I liked it. It was kind of when the whole craze came out. You know, I just didn't quite get the hang of it. You know, I bought all the mats. Well, in the last year, this is how I cut out my fabric and my, you know, with my pattern on top. So I found this one. You can find this. This is a Fiskars brand. Olfa also sells a good brand. And then I found this one at Hobby Lobby. I had a coupon. I got it for practically nothing. And you just, you know, pull that up and down to get your blade, just like that. Be sure you change out the blade when it gets dull, you know, because nothing is more frustrating than a dull blade when you're trying to cut fabric. So you will need a mat. You won't want to do this on your dining room table. It'll really mess it up. Just lay out your fabric and then just go like that. And there you go. Number 2 of my favorite tools are marking tools. Something to mark your fabric, whether you're going to mark, if you like to mark notches, some people like to snip, some people like to mark them with a pen or something. No, we're not talking a Bic pen or a magic marker or anything like that. These are specific for fabrics that will wash out, iron out. Just read the directions on each one. So my favorites are, I love this one. I've always loved this one. It's a disappearing pin. They're washable. This one's purple. And when you're working on light fabrics, then it works great. See if you need to make, that's my grandson out there, he's playing. So that's what you're hearing in the background, perhaps. He's happy, so it's all good. So if you need to make, you know, a dart, I like to put it on the side where I'm stitching. So it would be on the wrong side, and I just fold it in if I'm making a dart, and then I just stitch down the seam instead of trying to guess. You know, stitch down that purple line. So this is one of my favorites. If it's starting to dry out, get rid of it and get a new one. It's frustrating. They come in blue as well. They may even come in other colors now. I just always kind of go with the purple. This one especially, it's old, and this one has lasted a while, and I use it for every project. This is something I found just recently. You know, we've had those little chalk, I don't know, they're like this little rectangle, you know, it doesn't get too sharp. These are awesome. These are chalk pens, and has chalk in here, and you open it up, and it has a little wheel at the top, and you can mark any fabric you want. I like to use like the gray or a white. I don't have the white, but I have the gray, maybe on a denim. You can hear that wheel turning. So there you go. I love these. So I ended up getting one for dark colors, and then this goes either way. Here's a pink one. And I did hear from other sewist experience where the yellow where the yellow doesn't always come out. It can bleed. The rest of them don't seem to bleed or have any issues. You know, you could just brush it out like that, and then it's gone. And you can probably do that with the yellow. Just be real careful. Do a test sample on your fabric to be sure. So taking your marks from your pattern to your fabric is key. You want to make sure everything is lined up exactly the way it needs to be, and there's no better way than a disappearing pin or the fabric markers, and you can find them at your local quilting or fabric store. Number 3, fabric glue. Yes, you heard me right. There's fabric glue, there's steam-a-seam, there's different kinds of tools out now. That's so cool. I've always seen the fabric glue. I've never used it until recently. And I love it, especially, and here's why, especially if I'm using a knit and I want, you know, I don't really want to pin, because sometimes when you stitch, it kind of moves and slips around. So you can do this, and I usually put a piece of paper, and we'll put this underneath of it so it doesn't bleed out onto my mat. Just come along here just like this, and then glue it into place. You can steam it down, and it'll stay right into place. You can still pin it if you want to, and now you can go along and make your stitch, hand stitch, whatever. It's not going to go anywhere. It's nice and sticky and tacky, and you can just put it in your hem like that, or wherever you need. I used it for a button the other day. I was sewing a button on with my machine, and it had a tendency to kind of slide around. So I stuck a little of this underneath of it, and it did help. It still slid around just a little bit, but it was kind of sticky and tacky, so it was much better. Another thing I just discovered is this light, easy steam 2. This is by Pellon. There's another one called Steam-a-Seam that's just as good. And what this is, I love this stuff. It helps putting zippers in for sure. It's a double-sided sticky tack type thing. So if you put it down, you peel away there's a paper piece right here. Peel that away. Lay your 2 pieces together that you're really wanting, like if you have your zipper and you have your fabric, lay those 2 down, steam it, it's permanent. It's pretty cool. I used this for a jacket because there was really no place to stitch in the ditch. There was, you know, I didn't really want to hand stitch underneath the facing, so I used this, and it stayed down really, really nicely, and I didn't have to do that. Now, one thing I did try that didn't work is I laid this down, steamed it, tried to peel the backing off. That didn't work. So you really do need to get, you know, kind of work with it and get this piece. Let's see if I can get it off of here. And this is just glue. That's probably why it didn't work, because it was glue. It's different than stitch witchery. Stitch witchery is not tacky. This has a little tack to it, if you can kind of see. So it's gonna, you know, temporarily stick to what you want it to, and then steam it down, and then it's permanent. And it's just glue. So that's really cool. I love that one. This one, the E6000, I just purchased this from Judy Kessinger's site. I also saw this at Joann's the other day. They have a whole different section outside of their sewing section with all kinds of glues. And so take a walk around the whole store and see what's there. You'll be surprised. There's things in different places that you wouldn't have thought about. So if you're putting on rhinestones, something permanent that you don't want to stitch, or you can't stitch down a rhinestone or something like that, you can use this. Be sure to read the directions. It's kind of like super glue, so don't let it around kids. You know, kind of play with it a little bit. I would just get a small tube and then just put it in a baggie once you've opened it, just to kind of help keep that moist. Here in Colorado, it's very dry. I have to keep almost everything in a baggie. I really should have this in a baggie because this is going to dry out as well. And then Scotch tape. Sometimes you just need to tape something down. You can stitch over it, whatever here. It's just a handy tool. So these are my top gluing type tools that can really come in handy. My next tool is something I've known about for a long time. I've seen it at the fabric stores. I've never purchased one until recently, and I'm not sure why I purchased this. I must have seen another video that recommended it. So I put it on my list, went to Joann's, and I purchased a magnetic seam guide. See, it has a magnet on one side, and then your fabric will just glide right along the side. So you're going to want to put it right down here, and it just, this piece of my sewing machine right by the presser foot is magnetic. So I went ahead and I just, sometimes it's hard to see, especially for me. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I have trifocals. So it's easier to have a bigger guide. Yes, you can put tape. That works too. I found this really helped guide the fabric, whereas tape, you're still kind of maneuvering and making sure it stays along that seam. It works too, so, you know, try it out and see what you like. I found this for $5.99 at Joann's, and honestly, it's the best tool. I can use it for a 1/2 inch all the way out. Mine tends to kind of pull in, you know, some sort, it's a physics thing, magnetic force of some sort. So I can at least use it for 7/8, for a 1/2 inch to 7/8 inch wide seam allowance. Highly recommend it. I would check with your sewing machine manufacturer whether you can use this if you have one of those super fancy, schmancy electronic machines. It might not work. You might mess up your machine. I have the FOF Passport 3. It seems to work fine. I have not had any issues with it at all. So do check that out before you just run out and buy one, especially if you have a $15,000 machine. I'd hate for this little $5 thing to mess up your machine. So check with your manufacturer. If you get the go-ahead to use the magnetic seam guide, I recommend it. Did you know you can hold down your pattern with something other than pins? Sometimes when I'm using pins, it shifts the fabric just a little bit, and I just want everything to lay flat. Especially if you have a real silky type fabric, you just want everything to be flat as if it were, you know, a real thick corduroy or something, you know. You want it to stay, so you can either cut it with your scissors or with your rotary cutter. You can go out and buy a pattern. There's tools out there called pattern weights. Here's what I did. I found on Mimi G's blog one time that she uses these weights. What they are is washers. This is what I found, at my local hardware store. I bought several of these for like $4. I have 12. And most of the time I can just get by with this. I lay my fabric or my pattern piece down and I just kind of throw them around on the end like this. And then I'm ready to go ahead and cut this out. Something else I found, sometimes I really need to get more of these. So I found in my house, I have all kinds of coasters, and these are stone coasters. So on big projects, I just lay my coasters down. You know what else you can use? Anything that'll hold it down. You can use soup cans. I've used my cell phone in parts. I was at a workshop not too long ago and I didn't take any pattern weights or anything, and I really needed my fabric to lay down, my pattern on top to lay down over my fabric. So I just started laying down extra scissors, just whatever you have. So you don't have to go out and buy the real expensive pattern weights. They're really cute. There was a lady in our class who they were these little silver balls, and they were in the wedding section at Hobby Lobby where you put name cards in. It was brilliant. It looked really cute. She had all these little silver balls everywhere. Cute, cute, cute. So think outside the box a little bit here. You don't even have to spend any money if you don't want to. Just look around the house and see what you have just to hold things down. That's all you need. Number 6, rulers. You need a straight edge of some sort. You might even need something that has a nice little curve that you can work with when you're blending sizes from a particular pattern. This works really great. It also has the straight edge, so really you could just use this if you want. But there's so many out there. They're not only on your mat has a grid, but look in the quilting section. There's all kinds of quilting. I've had this one for a really long time and I use it all the time. And it just squares things off really nicely. Of course you need your seam gauge. You need something that goes up and down. You can measure 5/8, a 1/2 inch, 3 inches. This is just nice for hems when you're turning things up to make a small little hem. I love this. Really, this is essential. You need to have one of these if you don't have any of this other. I found this the other day. I love it. I use it for just small projects when I don't want to pull out my big one, and I just need something that has maybe a 45-degree angle and it's on an inch square grid. These come in really handy, and I find them in the quilting section. Here's another quilter's one. This one has a little lip. Sometimes this gets in the way. It's designed to just kind of be right at the edge of your mat, and then you can measure out wherever you need to. I do use this one a lot though. I just kind of work around it. This one has feet on it, so it's not gonna go anywhere. Really, the feet feel like sandpaper. That's probably what that is. So this is a nice one. And a yardstick. Sometimes you just need something long if you're drafting pants or if you're extending a dress pattern or something. You just need a long yardstick. So this one's metal. I don't even remember where I got this or when I got this. I've had it for so long. The wood ones work just as well. You just need something where you can do a straight edge. Or what I have done in the past is when I have my rotary cutter and I need a straight line, instead of, okay, for instance, a waistband. Sometimes it's really, really long and it's hard to get that cut just exactly right. Measure your pattern and then just cut it out using this. That way you make sure you've got those straight edges and it's to the T, and you don't have any waviness as you're trying to cut down with scissors or your rotary cutter. So rulers are really important. Go check out your local store and see what they have. Check out the hardware store for different types of rulers. You don't always have to get it at a fabric store. However, the quilters' rulers are pretty special because they know if you're quilting. I'm not a quilter. My mom is a quilter and she does beautiful quilts. And so you need things to be exact. Be sure you invest in good rulers. They will really help you. Number 7, point turners. Be sure you have a couple of point turners depending on what types of garments you're sewing. If you work with a lot of corners, like in a collar, a hem, that you just need to kind of pull out that seam allowance, so when you press it down it looks really, really nice and crisp. I like this one because it has kind of a dull edge right here. Some people will use scissors or even a pen or pencil, but you can still poke through it. I mean, you can poke through it with this one, but more so with the other. And if you have a pen or pencil, you might have marked on your fabric. If you use scissors, you might have just cut right through it. So I do recommend at least get one of these. You can also crease out your seam with it when you're ironing down your project. And I've had this one forever. This one, it's stiff. I need to kind of work it in. It's a pair of tongs. And if you have a tube, you can turn it inside out. But it also has this little pointy edge right there. One side has a blunt, just flat edge. The other is a pointy edge. And you can also kind of go in your collar with this and pull out that corner so it's nice and crisp and it doesn't look homemade. So those are my 7 tips for you for tools of the trade that I use personally all the time. I just thought I would hone in on some of the ones because I know when you get to the stores, you're just overwhelmed by the notion area or haberdashery. I think we should start calling it haberdashery. I like that. So, you know, take a look at this outside of your pin cushion, your pins. Check to see what tools you're going to need to make your project easier. I did look up on the computer and found a few places where I suggest that you purchase your tools. I have Joann Fabrics. They're everywhere. I have one like 1 mile away. So if I need something, I usually run over there. Download the app. You can usually get something even a cheaper price by using the app. Hobby Lobby, same thing. I have a Hobby Lobby, I think it's 2 miles. So I'm very convenient around with all of the stores. Hobby Lobby has their own line. I forget what it's called. Sewology, I think. And I love their products. I think they're great. There is one I want to show you that I have 2 of. And it's not a pin cushion, that was just a button. But it's a magnetic pin holder. And I have 2 of them. I keep one on one end of my sewing room, one on the other, and then I swap them out as I run kind of low on pins. Michael's is another place you can find some basic tools that are on my list. They may not have everything because they don't specialize in sewing. They specialize in crafting. So you might check that. Again, I have one of those close by. Walmart. Our Walmart has a little sewing section. Not all Walmarts, I've noticed, do. If your Walmart does have a sewing section, check in there. Sometimes prices are pretty good in there. The other one, Nancy's Notions. She has everything. She has things you can't even imagine that you might think, I need that. Last year I went on her website and found some really unique quilting items that I thought my mom might use. I hope she's using those because I thought they were kind of cool. Local fabric and quilting shops. Just Google that. Look on your phone app and see what's around. I looked on my phone app and realized there were 2 fabric stores in Boulder. So check those out in my fabric haul video. They were amazing stores. And I've lived here for 10 years and had no idea that those stores were here. You know, I knew about Joann's and you know, a lot of the quilting shops around and Hobby Lobby, and sometimes you just want to branch out from there. So look in your area and see what is there. Otherwise, you can go online. Amazon, they'll deliver. They have little block boxes everywhere. So check those out, see what tools you like, comment, and let me know, and I might add to my collection. So have a great day, everyone, and I will talk to you soon.